got most of my support from my wife, and I turn to her, sometimes too much. And so I also try and draw support from talking to others, motivating others, and that helps to motivate me.
Family. No question about it. Family first. My wife first and my kids. Yeah.
My wife, Jean, who's a registered nurse, has done a lot of oncology courses and that sort of thing, has been just a rock of Gibraltar for me, because she tended to get me out of my depressions, if you will. They weren't significant depressions, but my periodic bouts of oh woe is me. She got me out of those pretty darn quickly. And the rest of my family rallied around as well.
One of the things I'll have to say is that having Olivia's support, she'd be the one to go on that internet and spend hours going through the websites and finding the information. And I probably wouldn't have done that myself, but she would then tell me what she'd found. She created files that I could glance at. She'd highlighted things, because I was a bit distracted. And having somebody to help you do that is a huge blessing.
I think you've got to bring your spouse in on it immediately. And I've heard this over and over again at the prostate support group, that men will not tell or share with their wives, and that's wrong. It's got to be a family affair, particularly between the two spouses. Whether you tell your aging parents, maybe you don't, because do you need to worry them? Maybe you don't. Maybe you do. It's up to you, but we didn't in my case.
I know after the treatment and after getting through and making sure that I was well on the way to recovering, my wife told me, she said, I was on tenterhooks for 6 weeks while you made your mind up. She said, I would have told the doctor then and there, take it out, but you wanted to research it, you wanted to find out about the other options, and she said it was very difficult for her to hang back and let me make the decision, and yet that's what she had to do. It was my decision, I had to make it my way.
I was well informed by the people that were involved in my treatment. The urologist and the radiation oncologist and his assistant were very good at giving me, all the information they could about what to expect.
My family doctor, the oncologist, and the oncologist's staff at Princess Margaret, they were all tremendous. They led me through the process and made it, I wouldn't say made it easy, but they made it a more pleasant experience.
I got most of my support from the prostate group that I joined. That was the most meaningful support, because they were people that knew what they were talking about. I got support from my family, emotional support, absolutely. But they don't know anything about prostate cancer. So all they were giving me was basically love, right? And but what I needed was assurance and something to relieve the anxiety, and I got that from the prostate group that I joined.
I would say the prostate support group was the best thing I did. Joining up with other men who've been through this was the best thing that happened to me. And being able to sit with men in a room, have a cup of coffee and a cookie, and tell your story, and then hear what other men have to say. Very, very comforting.
In terms of reaction, now that I found interesting, I would say of the first, because afterwards I did keep a tab of it, of the first 50 or 55 people that I told that I had been diagnosed with prostate cancer, all but 2 came back with sympathy, which to me is the last thing someone who's diagnosed with cancer needs. It's normal, natural human reaction that you'll come back and say, oh, I'm sorry to hear. But just using the word sorry means sympathy. And when you're in that situation, we haven't been diagnosed with cancer, you don't want sympathy, you want hope.
Another support was actually my church community. I'm not really a religious person, I would say, but definitely a spiritual person. So that came from my church community also.
And I think that's the first time in the House of Commons where everyone has worn a common image, except, well, of course, it's done at Remembrance Day. It's done for White Ribbon Day. It's done for, there are those occasions. But these ties were very visible. And you looked up and down this house, which is normally pretty raucous. And there's a lot of mudslinging going on. I call it mud wrestling. And I'm not any good at mud wrestling, and I don't think we should be doing it in the House of Commons. But everybody put that aside, and there's these beautiful blue scarves and ties. And then speeches being made from each party. And it was very moving, because it was my first day or two back in the House after my announcement. And that it certainly brought the emotions forward. And I was thinking of my dad, very much so, at that time. I know he was with us, too, in spirit.